Hey everyone, Fifth Bridge Sports here. We hope you're having a great week. We hope you're dominating your matchup this week in fantasy basketball. We're going to go through some ads for week 15. We're going to cover the best teams to stream players from. And yeah, let's get started.
So we're trying out something new this week. So we got our fantasy meme of the week. So yeah, if half my team wasn't injured, that'd be great. I personally relate to this one. I drafted Paul George and Zion in our fantasy league, so that's been hurting a little bit. But if you want to take part in our fantasy meme of the week, feel free to send in meme submissions on our Instagram account, same name as the YouTube channel, Fifth Bridge Sports. Otherwise, we'll get started here. So we got our games played slide. As always, feel free to reference this, use this as you will. Things to point out: Thunder, Rockets, and Wizards are the teams playing 2 games this week. So maybe avoid, playing those players or picking those guys up. Total games played by day here. So Thursday, low volume game day. 2 games only on that day. So if you have players on those teams playing, shown in the picture there, it might be a little bit advantageous to you. Won't have any issues with overlapping and having to bench a guy who's playing a game. We have a best team for fantasy this week going to the Timberwolves and the Lakers. Both of these teams are playing 4 games and also playing 2 games, or are the teams playing on that Thursday 2-game day.
Okay. Now we're going to go through some players that you should be looking to pick up in standard leagues. So we're going to start here with Zubac, who is the starting center for the Clippers. They're currently running a 3-center rotation, which I'm not a big fan of, but even with all 3 centers in, everyone's healthy, he still plays around 25 minutes a game, depending on foul trouble. They have 4 games this week, and he can put up around 25 fantasy points per game. He averages close to a double-double with a block or steal per game. Jalen Suggs, he's a rookie that plays for the Magic. He's got 3 games this week, but could be a potential long-term ad. He's recently come back and has been putting up strong numbers. He just put up a 46 fantasy point game like the other day. So he's definitely it looks like he's capable of getting it going. Mm-hmm. He also plays for the Magic, right? I could see them just tossing him a couple more minutes, trying to develop the player. Kobe White, currently on Chicago, and with the injury to Lonzo and the GOAT, Caruso, should see an increased amount of touches. He has 4 games this week, and recently we've seen an increase in production. He's rostered in 57% of leagues, and is another candidate for a longer-term ad here. Let's see. Amir Coffey, he was on here last week, but he's played well over the previous week, and there have been no big updates or any changes in the rotation. The Paul George Kawhi situation remains the same. This guy averages around 25 fantasy points per game. And if you have some time, I definitely recommend watching the Clippers play. The commentators, they go to town on this guy. There's just so many coffee puns. I think, coffee with the scoop layup. It's something else. It's quality commentating there.
Oh man, have to make throw those clips all together. So next we got Eric Gordon here, 31% rostered. So he's a starting small forward for the Houston Rockets. He'll get you about an average of 20 fantasy points a night. He gets on the court, gets around 30 minutes every game. So definitely the possibility for some good production from him. If you want just a consistent guy, he does only play 2 games this week, unfortunately. But looking beyond this week, he might be someone to consider. Next we got Onyeka Okongwu, 29% rostered. I do think his value is about to fall off a little bit because Clint Capella has just returned from injury. So the minutes that Okongwu's been seeing are kind of bound to drop off a little bit because of that. Okongwu has played well, though, and maybe he's proven to the coach that he does deserve a few more minutes out there on the court. They did draft him pretty high, so maybe they're going to consider getting him those reps to develop him a little bit more. If that happens, he might be someone to take a chance on. Next, we have Thomas Bryant. So he's playing in Washington. They have an interesting center situation going with Daniel Gafford and Montrezl Harrell. Thomas Bryant prior to getting injured last season was the starting center and was kind of the staple of that rotation. He was averaging 26 fantasy points a game last season before everything kind of happened. So if he's able to kind of regain that role, step into the starting lineup, and prove to the coach that he's their best option, he could have some good production down the stretch here. And lastly, we have Goga Badotsi, 22% rostered. So he's put up some good fantasy games recently here. Sabonis has been injured, which has opened the door for a lot of players on that team to step up and fill in for some of that production that you're missing with one of your best players going down. So as long as Sabonis is out, I would consider streaming this guy for a little bit.
Yeah. Didn't he get ejected the other day?
Yeah, I think against the Lakers he got ejected. Didn't really look into why, but
There you go. Go. Okay. So now we'll go through some players to add in really deep leagues, your 16, 18, 20 team leagues. So we'll start off with not the GOAT in this case, but the GOAT's brother, Caleb Martin. So Caleb plays for the Heat and has had some big games recently. Lowry's expected to miss some time, and Hero and Morris are currently in COVID protocols, averaging 19.75 fantasy points and rostered in 13% of leagues. I think there's not a lot to really think about there. If you can pick him up, you do. His brother's also looking pretty nice this week. He has four games. Yeah, averages very similar numbers. So
yeah, I
definitely
don't
look
know.
into that.
Comment below who's the better Martin brother.
Yeah, comment. I mean, there's a correct answer to that, but comment anyways. So our next name on here is Kleber, and he's on Dallas right now. He's a solid player. He gets a lot of minutes, which is what makes what adds to picking him up. His production is it's on and off sometimes. He's dropping fantasy points, in the mid 20s, but he's also got his low games. But it's the minutes that draw you in because he consistently gets between 20 and 30 minutes. So, in your really deep leagues, definitely consider picking him up. Isaac Okoro is another really tempting player. I had him on my fantasy team. I actually recently dropped him because he does get close to 30 minutes per game when he's healthy, and he can go out there, and you would think that to drop 8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and he is a relatively defensive player, so you can hope for the block or a steal per game. That is something that he does excel at. So for those reasons, in really deep leagues, he's worth considering. Aaron Wiggins is a player on OKC. His role is a little bit uncertain currently. I have seen him come off the bench and play, I think, 15 or 20 minutes. I've seen him start and play over 30 minutes. It's all over the place, but with OKC being, where they are in the standings, I think it is possible that he just maintains his role. They give him some extra minutes, try to maybe develop this player, and he continues to average close to 20 fantasy points per game. And at 6% rostered, I think if you can get value like that, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I remember last season with the Thunder, I had Shea Gilgeous on my team all year, and at the end of the season, he ended up going on a stretch where he was, sitting out games with an injury. I think a large part of that reason is, just tanking a little bit, frankly, and getting the younger guys some minutes. So Aaron Wiggins could definitely benefit from that. But going on, we got DeMarcus Cousins, 5% rostered. So he got picked up on a 10-day contract from the Denver Nuggets. He's been a guy who's been bouncing around from team to team and hasn't really been able to stick anywhere. With the current situation in Denver, he'll be potentially playing behind Jokic. They have a game on Sunday today, so I think that's something to monitor and see if he's worth picking for the upcoming week, depending on how the coach gives him minutes here. If there's the opportunity, he maybe plays alongside Jokic. They do need someone to kind of give them a scoring punch, with Cousins could definitely provide. Then he might be worth picking up. Next, you have Zaire Williams, 1% rostered. So the Grizzlies have been dealing with some injuries to their wing depth. They've had Bain, Anderson, and Brooks all out here. So because of that, Zaire Williams has found his way into the starting lineup and has put up some decent fantasy games. A little bit inconsistent, admittedly, but one of those was above 32 fantasy points. He might be worth considering taking a chance on when those other players are missing some time. And last, we have Jose Alvarado. He's a 0% roster guy. He's the backup point guard currently in the New Orleans Pelicans roster. He's a high energy guy. I love watching him play defensive pest. He's always going to get you a couple steals. In his most recent game, he put up 4 steals, which is great if you had him for that game for his fantasy value. Unfortunately, with Devontae Graham, Josh Hart, and Nikhil Alexander-Walker being in the rotation, he is kind of limited by his upside in fantasy in terms of those minutes and the production he can have. But yeah, has someone coming off the bench. It looks like he might be able to provide around 15 fantasy points a night with the way currently things are trending. And if maybe he proves himself some more and earns more minutes, he could only climb up from there. But yeah, that's the end of our list this week for our fantasy basketball ads. So thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah, stay safe.